Hi, I'm Kate Allison, a yoga therapist in Davidson, North Carolina. Today, I want to bring you a special holiday treat, a DIY self-care toolbox to survive the holidays, or COVID, or anything else really stressful and hard going on in your life. So what I've done is gone ahead and made mine, and what we're going to do is go through each item on the list to just give a brief how-to and a reminder of how to do that self-care intervention or tool or yoga therapy kind of modality. So once we finish, I'm going to have a list of all of these items just in kind of a straight line at the bottom of this video that you can print out on your own. You just cut them up into separate sheets of paper, put them in your box, and then it's a grab and go. So more often than not, when we're hitting a really hard moment or our nervous system is a bit dysregulated, it's really hard to access our prefrontal cortex and to remember all of the tools in our toolkit, all of the strategies and interventions that help us get back into a bit more of a regulated nervous system state. So I like to have all of my interventions. This one's a little bit more dressed up for the holidays, but I tend to like to have all of my interventions in a singular bowl where when I notice that I'm feeling a bit more dysregulated in my body, all I have to do is go and grab one and pick one and commit to doing just that one strategy or intervention. I usually find for myself that it only takes 1, 2, maybe 3 interventions, and I'm back to feeling a bit more regulated and in control of my body and my experience. All right, so let's get started. Like I said, I've already kind of made this one, but at home you'll have a list that you can cut up and put in. Our first intervention here is Mindfulness I Spy. This is a great tool to bring you back into the present moment. I like to do it through a rainbow. So looking around the room that you're in, pick one red item that you can see. So I see like a red ball here, and label it and name it just like I did. So this is a red Christmas ornament or a red bow. So whatever the red thing is that you see, name it and label it, which draws on our prefrontal cortex to access our ability to label and categorize information. Now pick one orange item, one yellow item, one green item, one blue item, one purple item, and one pink item. Notice how you feel. So that's just using our sight and our vision to come back to the present moment. You might also find that you have to really look around the room, which is an orienting strategy and helps us to get back into our body. Our next one is horse breath. This is a super simple and super silly way of calming down. So what you're gonna do is just like what you might have seen a horse do. You're gonna take a big breath in through your nose, exhale, when you're just getting your lips to move around really fast. It's a great way to blow off some steam. All right, the next item is self-massage, abhyanga in yoga, which using our mirror neurons, our body can't really tell the difference between us massaging our body and actually getting a massage. Sometimes it even feels safer with us doing the touching rather than somebody else. So one way to do this is just to notice, does it feel better to have soft touch on your skin? Maybe even scratch your arm a bit, just gently, or a firm kind of grip and grasping. Just notice what feels better there. Right? And just that noticing of deciding what feels a little bit better and choosing to stick with that can be really helpful. You could also bring your hands up to your shoulders or your neck just to give yourself a little massage. And one of my favorite tools is to interlace my finger just at the base of my neck, kind of the occiput area where the skull becomes the neck, and to just rock my head side to side. So just passively using my pinkies and the sides of my pinky fingers to let my head rock a little side to side. And this massages your gateway of consciousness acupressure points, which can be really soothing for the nervous system. Right? It also gets our head to relax, so it just kind of helps us calm down. And I know I'm going through these a little bit quickly. Most of these tools are already in other videos on my channel that you can dive into a little bit more deeply. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the tools, a little reminder. All right, pick a guided meditation or yoga practice to do online. That's pretty simple, right? So like I just mentioned, most of these tools are already somewhere else on my YouTube channel. So you can always just pick one of those, or maybe you have another practitioner that you really like their voice and find it very soothing. Pick a practice, tune into it. Maybe you decide that you've got 10 or 15 minutes and you just do that guided meditation or a guided yoga practice. I've got some free guided meditations up on my website, kateallison.com, that don't have any ads on them. And you can also download them onto your phone if you want to be able to play them anytime, anywhere. All right, the next one is legs up the wall. So a little tricky to demo this one when I'm sitting at a table, but what it looks like is scooching your booty right up to the baseboard of a wall and letting your legs go straight up that wall so that your back is resting on the floor. This is super good for lowering your blood pressure, helping you to ease in towards sleep. It can help with insomnia if you're having a hard time sleeping. So that's a great strategy. You might want to set a timer and just do that practice for 10 or 15 minutes. Our next strategy is box breathing. So this is where you're going to imagine breathing like a box. And you're counting your breath. So breath counting is an excellent tool to calm us down. If we extend the exhale and make it a little bit more like a rectangle breathing, that can also be really helpful. So let's try it on a 3 count. So you inhale, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, exhale, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3. You can also do it at a 4 or 5 count. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. And again, you can play with that a little bit. So maybe breath counting feels a little better at like a 3-to-6 ratio for you. So inhale, 3, maybe 4. Exhale, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. Just extending that exhale a little bit longer to kick you over towards that parasympathetic nervous system. All right, next tool, body scan for opposite sensations. So this can be another really helpful embodiment practice. So start to get curious about your body right now and notice, are there any parts of your body that feel cool or cold? Just identify, label that part of your body, notice it, and then feel, are there any parts of your body that feel hot or heat or warm? Go back to the cool sensation, back to the warm sensation. You can also do this with feeling grounded or light. So notice all the parts of your body that are sitting or lying down on the floor or touching the floor. And then notice all the parts of your body that are up and facing upward, not touching anything, light and free to move about. And notice that grounded feeling, that light and free feeling. Allow yourself to go back and forth between the two. And then notice your body's ability to both have warmth and coolness, lightness and groundedness all at once. All right, our next tool, humming. This is an excellent tool, probably the most common tool that I use for myself for nervous system regulation. So you take a big breath in through your nose and you exhale out on the hum. Then you just keep going until you run out of air, and then you breathe in again through your nose. And if you bring your hand up to your throat, you might notice that slight vibration. That vibration helps to stimulate your vagus nerve, helps to send messages up to your brain that you're safe. All right, our next one is journal for 10 minutes. Just grab some pen and paper, set a timer for yourself, and free write. Give yourself permission to write whatever comes to mind. Give what you get. So you might just write one word over and over again. You might write the emotion you're feeling. You might write a story. And you might find that you feel a little better after venting it out in a safe space in your journal. All right. Gorilla breathing. This is a big, bold breathing that helps us to relax a bit. So what it's gonna look like is fingertips on the inhale, just tapping. Inhale, and on the exhale, we're gonna do a nice big thud and a sound, like a vocal sound. So it's gonna look like this. Inhale. Notice how that feels. And with any of these tools, I know I'm kind of rushing through them a little bit today to give them to you, but with any of these tools, make sure to pause. Notice how it's feeling in your body. That pause is just as important as the pose or the intervention that you choose to try. The pause helps give our brain time to synthesize the information and to notice, I'm safe, right? We're using introspection and reflecting back on what our inner experience is in our body. Got a few more for you guys here. Go for a walk. Walking can be a great tool, especially if you're getting your arms going in opposite directions with your feet. That cross-lateral stimulation is great for the brain, and it gives you something to look around. So even if going outdoors isn't an option for you, if you have the ability, maybe you walk a bit in your room or around your house. All right. A power pose, strike a pose. There's some awesome research out there that shows if we strike a Superman or superhero or Wonder Woman pose, that it actually helps our brain feel more confident. But you have to hold it for like a whole minute. So maybe set a timer for a minute and strike a power pose. Hold it. And you might notice that power poses tend to have your chest open, your sternum lifted. You feel a bit more open in your body. Notice what it feels like. Okay. Next one, self-compassion linger. So for this one, you're gonna put one hand on your forehead, one on your heart. Just maybe close or lower your eyes and notice what that feels like. Maybe you sort of notice the warmth of your hands. Notice if there's any differences under your left hand versus your right hand. Notice if your hands are maybe even communicating with each other a little bit subtly. And then you might take your hands away, keeping your eyes closed or lowered, and notice, can you feel the imprint of where your hands were? Can you feel that warmth on your chest or your forehead? Maybe you just tune into that sense of warmth and the way that that self-compassion is lingering. Okay, our next one, slow eye reorienting. A few weeks ago, my husband and I were out by the ocean and this little bird kept flying into a window and it was really sad. It kept stunning itself. So the first time we sat by it and waited for it, and it did this neck thing. It was going like this with its neck and looking around. And then it eventually flew off again. So it's very primal what animals do and what we can do. The eye reorienting, the shaking, the tremoring, these are all ways that our body tries to reorient after a stressor or a traumatic event. So for reorienting in your eyes, I like to look at all four corners of the room. So trying to use just my eyes at first, and then letting my head and neck turn around. And I kind of look at the top of the walls, the bottom of the walls, and I'm moving really slowly. And as I'm doing this, I'm taking in information to notice I'm the only person in the room, or maybe I know or recognize the other people in the room. And I'm starting to notice that I'm quite safe. So we're just taking in our surroundings. And so after doing that a bit, maybe just notice how that feels in your body. All right, the next one, pet or hug an animal. If you do have an animal, or if you have a stuffed animal that you really like, petting or hugging an animal can help to release oxytocin in our brain, helps us to feel safe and loved. All right, hands over our face. So for this practice, you're gonna rub your hands really, really fast. And on an inhale, bring them up over your eyes. Breathing that prana or life force in, exhale out through your nose. I always like to combine with this one a little bit of self-massage over the forehead or the temples. Just noticing how that practice feels. You might do that 2 or 3 more times. Just notice how it feels. And remember, I'm rushing through these a bit just to give them all to you. But when you do this at home, when you're pulling one item at a time from your self-care toolbox, just remember to really let it linger. Give about 5-10 minutes to each item on the list. Maybe you only need to do 1 or 2 before you notice in your own body that you're feeling a bit more regulated and calm. Slow wrist rolls, and this can work with most joints, right? But I like to personally do it with your wrist. If you've got carpal tunnel or any sort of impediment in your wrist, you might do it with your elbows or with your knees or ankles, but just really slow wrist. You might tune in and notice in your brain, wow, this is pretty easy. Maybe. If you have some arthritis or something going on, it might not feel very easy, in which case pick a different joint that feels a bit easier for you. Right? Because what we're doing is just noticing, and we're using our interoception and the afferent nerve endings, which mean they send messages up to our brain, to tell our brain, this is pretty easy, I'm pretty safe, and I'm calm. So just noticing what it feels like to move slowly in your body and mindfully with that intention. All right, I've got 2 more items in our list here. Bouncing. So this can just be, I'm sitting in a chair, so I'm just bouncing my upper body, but just letting all your joints kind of bounce, letting your head and neck bounce, maybe releasing a bit of sound like an ooh. That just kind of can sometimes feel a bit nice on the nervous system. Last one, which is another kind of variation on this, so tremoring. I'm going to use my tinsel here to tremor in my arms, and there's a whole video just on tremoring with a 30-minute practice called Yoga for Grounding on my page, so check that out if you haven't already seen it. You're going to take your strap or t-shirt or tinsel up above your head, pull it down, and try and pull it apart until you get these little neurogenic tremors and shakes, which is just your body releasing excess stress hormones, and then releasing, noticing how it feels. So those are some of my favorite self-care strategies. I know Oprah does her list of her favorite things, but these are my list of my favorite things and self-care interventions to feel empowered in your embodiment, in your experience in your body. So if you have extra ones that you like to do at home, please drop a comment. Let me know what works well for you, and make sure to add them in to your self-care toolbox. So remember, all of the list of these will be down at the bottom. You can just print it off, or you can handwrite them. Fold them up, put them in your self-care toolbox, and use them when you need them. I hope that these tools, strategies, and interventions lead to feeling a bit more empowered to take charge of finding a little bit of peace and calm in your body and some nervous system regulation. Thank you for tuning in. Happy holidays. And as always, if you like this video or others on my channel, please make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all our latest videos. Thank you. Have a great day.